Hey there, Outliers. Niiamah here. I am coming into this space here. It's about 3 p.m. on 3 p.m. Pacific time where I'm out. I'm out in San Diego. And I realized here that I have been on back-to-back calls more or less from 9 a.m. this morning until right now. And I haven't eaten anything for lunch yet. And that feeling like made me come. I don't want to glorify like missing food or all that stuff. It's not like I'm intermittent fasting and choosing to do this here. But what it is for me is that, like, I'm normally in a place where I'm constantly thinking about food, or I'm constantly hungry. And I think it's because I'm constantly bored, you know? Either like well, one or two things. Either I'm constantly bored or I'm constantly challenged. But I think it's more boredom. Just to be really honest. And so it's wild out. It isn't lost on me that it's now 3 hours after I normally would have a lunch, 10 minutes after I would have got back for another snack or whatever it is. And I actually just feel more energized and inclined to come in and talk to you all than to go handle that. I'm gonna go take care of it in a bit. But it made me want to come into this space and slow down with you and look at it and say like, all right, cool. Like in your leveling up journey as an outlier, like do you have something that you're so in like interested in that lights you up so much that like you could find yourself like seeing time just pass on by. Today was just a bunch of like great deep coaching transformational calls, and honestly having the framing of leveling up once again like put me back in like a really wonderful position. Beforehand I was doing a lot of talking to chat gpt, trying to plan everything out, trying to be able to see how everything's going to line up in the future, and like just basically get the perfect plan of and how everything lined up with along the way, perfect alignment and plan. And what was interesting today has just been like how one conversation to the next, uh, just unexpected things kept popping off. I brought back in, and you'll hear me talk about this a little bit later on, but I brought back in a framework that I haven't talked about or used really since 2023. This is 2026 when I'm making this recording. It's been somewhere around 3 years since I last brought this into the world, and it came back effortlessly, and it felt really appropriate. And the reason for this is that I'm back in the game of helping people become, right? Not just to do, but like to actually become. And there's processes that I found in alignment with that. I got to pause myself. It's not just being back in the game of becoming. What it is that I'm back in the game of becoming with outliers, and there's challenges that come along with being an outlier, that this framework helps like navigate. It's the reason why I create this as a community, and I invite us to come together. I come and I share things. I come into this space and share what's happening behind the scenes because, quite frankly, I think that being an outlier means that you're. I look at it like 3% is usually what I look at. Like like you're one like three like not a lot of people are doing it. You're one of the only. I've been part of the 3% club most of my life, where it's like, oh, 3% of all people in this are African American. So I use that as like my general benchmark. It's not like a tried and like not a hard fast rule around outlierness. But let's use 3%. Well, that means that in a room full of 100 people, there's two other people other than you who like think like you or have like the experience that you may have. I like to look for different minded people. So hopefully you don't find people who like think exactly like you. But like there are two other people who might get it, you know? And I think that it creates a very rarefied space, but it also makes it like really, really challenging, you know? And so I'm finding like I'm excited to get back together with you all. I'm enjoying finding opportunities to come and share. This is where I want to go with this. So because there's like only two other people, or there's three out of the entire 100 people in the room, like there's with that comes like a bit of weight, right? For some people, it feels like responsibility. Like for me, a lot of times, like I felt like I was like the token black guy in the things that I did, and so like I would have to like represent things, and like before you go like, oh, you shouldn't have had to do that. It's like that's just part of like life, you know. And there's things that I now get to do because of it, but I recognize that like in being an outlier, there's some element of weight that comes along with it. And sometimes the weight has nothing to do with like what other people are going to see with you in terms of representing or being responsible for. The other side of it is like, well, part of what allows me to be here is I had to be exceptional. Like literally, like I had to be the exception. Most like the outliers are the exception in the group. Everyone else is in the norm, like they're the normies and they're the average, and the status quo is over here. And you have the exceptions over here, the exceptional people, us outliers, right? And it's not. And the thing about it is that to be exceptional is that you have to be the exception. You have to do things that other people wouldn't do. You got there from in ways that other people wouldn't get. And typically, that also comes with a level of like exceptional success. You create a success that other people aren't getting. And I think that I know from my own past experience and talking to other clients and other members inside the community, it's like there's this pressure, I think, or like maybe it's not pressure, maybe it is, I don't know, but like if we get it wrong, then we fall from the exceptional status. And so there's a lot of room. There isn't as much room now to be messy, right? There isn't as much room to make mistakes and to, dare I say, play. It's why you notice inside of our spaces, I'm constantly talking about games. What game are you playing? And I'm like, want to play? I'm doing this because we intentionally create more space for you to be messy. uh, I'll end this here with this, like, and maybe I won't end it here, but there's the framework that we use to help outliers like really level up, and the framework is based on the four competencies of learning, which talk about unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Conscious competence, where it's sorry, unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Conscious incompetence. You're like, oh man, I really don't know what I'm doing. Then it gets to conscious competence. When you think about it, when you're being conscious of it, you can do it well. And then there's unconscious competence, which is the ability to do something without even having to think about it. And then there's a level. I was introduced to this back in like about 7 years ago, but there's a level above that, which I like to call the path of mastery, or the level of mastery, or the level of leadership, and that is conscious unconscious competence. That's you going back and becoming aware again of the things that you now do unconsciously that lead to your success. I think one of the best ways I can describe this is with driving a car. The first time you drive a car, you have no idea what it's like to drive a car. You have no clue that you don't know anything about how it's actually supposed to go, right? But once you get behind the wheel and you start moving things, you put your foot down on the pedal or whatever it is, and like it jerks more than you expect, you realize, oh, I actually don't know this thing, right? So you've gone from unconscious incompetence, where you didn't even know that how much you didn't know about it, to conscious competence, where you start to become aware, like, or conscious incompetence, where you start to be aware that you don't know. And then it moves from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. You're like, okay, I'm driving, I have my hands on 10 and 2. I'm checking the things, I'm paying attention to everything. Like, and you're able to drive and get there. Right. And then eventually you get to the point where you get into the car and you go to the store and you realize that like you're standing in the checkout line with eggs in your hand and you're like, how did I even get here? Because you didn't have to be conscious about it. You're able to do all these other things with it. That takes us all the way to the unconscious competence. Then we get to the level of mastery and leadership, where you get older and you have to go and teach your son, daughter, niece, nephew, teach someone else how to drive. And then you're like, I don't know, like I just put my hands here and like it just works. And that ability to then get back into the distinctions and the nuance of what you're doing, so you can teach someone else or lead someone else to do it. That's the last stage here. And so the becoming journey, the leveling up journey that we take here in Outliers Edge really follows that path, right? It takes you from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence to unconscious competence to conscious, unconscious competence. Lots of competence stuff, lots of consciousness stuff in there. But basically, what it means is that we help you move through each of the different stages. And the first stage here is like, first we got to take action so you can be able to get something. But then we get you awareness. You start to be aware of like, oh, I don't know what this is about. And then like in order to go from being unaware, like I gotta find other words because the B side becomes really confusing for people. But when we go from the stage of going from I don't know what I'm doing, sorry, I don't know what I don't know, to oh, now I know I know I don't know what's up. That's awareness. That's you raising your awareness so you can see and realize, okay, this is where I actually am. Then we have to go from the stage of I don't know what I'm doing to like, oh, what, like if I'm really like paying attention, if I'm really on my game, like we I can get it done. Well, that stage there to get to that, like you don't just get there easily. It gets there because you actually like how to make a lot of mistakes. And this is a stage that's like really characterized by being messy. Right? And you, like I often say, like the way through this is to play. Right. It's to be daring. It's to go in and play out there. And so you're gonna see like that's our second stage of leveling up. So allowing yourself to first we got to become aware of like where we are, where we want to go to, like what like get that true awareness of what's holding us back. Then we gotta allow ourselves to, like, not be good at it, and then just go for it. This is where you see playing, you'll have me talk about a lot of volume, so on and so forth. Like, we gotta try things out and not try and expect to be good, and this is really hard because, again, we've gotten to this room as an outlier. It's like, if we aren't on the top of our game, does that mean that we lose our outlier status? Do we go from being the exception or being exceptional to just being, like, kind of average or, like, no longer like, if there's only 3 spots for someone who's not in the norm and we go below the means, do we lose it? Do we lose out on them forever? So it's a really tricky place to play. It's a really tricky place to exist, and that's why I use things like play and game so I can make some lightness out of it, but it can feel very existential in terms of the threat to the life that you live in. And then we after that we have the level of going from now you're in a place where you're like, okay, when I'm concentrating on this, I can get it done, but I can't just do it like in my sleep. I can't just like it's not automatic yet. So the way to get to automatic, I kind of like revealed it a little bit there. That's to focus on practice. Right? That's when you're in the practice of it. You're doing it on purpose. You're doing it intentionally. You're getting a lot of reps, lots of volume. But now this is not volume trying a whole bunch of different things. It's actually volume doing the same thing and iterating, learning, and seeing how it's growing along the way. Then eventually you get to the point where you're like, I don't even think about it. It just happens. Right. And once that happens, for us as outliers, like we either go down one of two paths. One of them is like the self mastery part where we get better at it for ourselves, or we get into the leadership side of things where we get better at it for other people. And either way, the key there is being able to have like nuance and distinctions so you can piece apart what it is that you're doing. It's one of those things where it's like, essentially, you should be able to teach someone else how to do it and do it effectively. I think that we can tell people what to do, but to be able to actually to have the level of nuance to be able to piece it apart to someone else, that's a totally different game. And that to me is the game of leveling up as an outlier over and over and over again. We're gonna help you raise more awareness. We're gonna help you play and be messy, we're going to help you practice, and then we're going to help you go and distill that and get distinguished and get nuances on it so you can actually achieve mastery of it over and over and over again. We're going to keep playing that game with you. Uh, there's no limit to the leveling up. That's what I believe. Like we can just keep doing this. So I'm excited. I think it's now time for me to go get that food. It feels good. My stomach's like, all right, you've done it. But I wanted to come and spend time with y'all specifically here. Let me know what part of this really lights you up. What part of this like challenges you the most? And what's the thing that you find yourself doing where time just slips away? Like that thing, by the way, it's probably the thing that you're unconsciously competent at. A thing that you don't have to think about, that gets you all the way. It's almost like yeah, it's almost like driving to the store and being like, I don't even remember, like, I don't remember the route. Did I even get any like stops, like red lights or what? And it's because you're in flow. If in another way, like it's what allows you to get into flow. So when you find yourself in that flow, um, like that's what we're trying to get you to, and then to be able to then create from that flow. I say be you on purpose. That then comes to like, okay, how do we get ourselves into flow? And how do we do that intentionally in a way that's aligned with us? All right. So I'm going to end this here. I'm going to go get some grub, and just know that I'm thinking about you here, and I'm hoping you find things that bring you into flow as often as possible. Share with us the things that you can do that where you can just get yourself lost in and have to be reminded to to come up and rejoin. And my goal would be for this community in this space and the live sessions we have on Tuesdays and Thursdays, as well as the daily live sessions we have, daily live show that we do at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday. There we go. That's one of my first time saying that. So you saw the messiness there, right? I was like, in the future, I'll be like crisp, clean. But right now, I'm going through my own messiness with it as I'm leveling up. Um, my hope is that we bring these things into this space and we help you like really be able to take ownership of it all the way through. All right. So we'll end here. Until the next time we talk, remember this: be you on purpose. Journey on.